Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Erika Jayne's lawyer suggests she's emotionally destroyed after Tom Girardi's prison sentence. The Tom Girardi saga finally came to an end on June 3, 2025, when the disgraced attorney was sentenced to 7 years in prison for stealing millions of dollars from his clients. This case has been dragging on for years, so there was plenty of time for Erika Jayne to emotionally prepare for this outcome. However, one of her lawyers says the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star isn't doing well after the sentencing. The Sun spoke to an attorney named Jim Wilkes. At one point, fans thought he was dating Erika, but he's actually just a longtime friend of the Girardis. He's also representing her in one of her many civil suits. Jim has had a front row seat to all of Erika's legal and marital troubles. Now that Tom has been sentenced, he said Erika has been experiencing a wave of emotions. We're not sure if guilt was a part of that wave. I'm sure she's emotionally destroyed, but there's a part of her that's shut off and compartmentalized, Jim explained. He continued, it's someone you loved and trusted, and everyone else told you to trust, broke every bit of trust you had in them, and didn't even tell you, covered it up. How would you feel? Jim noted how Tom's dementia diagnosis has made these last few years even more difficult for Erika. She's still legally married to him, and Jim predicted it will stay that way until Tom kicks the bucket. Either way, Tom has been ordered to surrender to the authorities by July 17. That RHOB cast is expected to start filming soon for season 15, so we might be seeing Erika's reaction to all of this on Bravo. The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills is streaming on Peacock and Hayu in the UK and Ireland. Not the temperature, though the air conditioning had been relentless, but the feeling. The kind of cold that seeps into your bones, the kind that doesn't come from wind or snow, but from finality. It was the cold silence of justice, the echo of an empire collapsing. Erika Jayne sat in the back, expression blank, the fire of her stage persona buried beneath layers of mascara and quiet panic. Tom Girardi had once dazzled her. He had been the silver-haired titan, a man whose power in the courtroom was matched only by his charm. But now he was just an old man in a jumpsuit, shuffling like a shadow across the polished floor, no longer a legal god, just a convicted fraudster. Her lawyer, the ever-composed Michael Eisen, had leaned into the microphones outside the courthouse just hours after the sentence was handed down. The press begged for blood, for tears, for rage. What they got was a calm, clipped statement. Erika is emotionally destroyed. She's still processing the gravity of it all. Behind those words, though, was a volcano. For months, years even, Erika had walked a tightrope. On one side, the glittering pop star of Pretty Mess, fierce and unapologetic. On the other, the ex-wife of a disgraced titan, implicated in his fall from grace. She had weathered the headlines. Gold digger, she knew. Frozen accounts, with the steel-eyed grace of a woman trained in performance. But this, the final nail in Tom's coffin, this was different. No one tells you how to mourn someone who's still alive. In the days following the sentencing, Erika retreated to the hills. Her mansion echoed with too much space, the silence only broken by the occasional hum of the espresso machine or the distant click of stilettos. She no longer had the heart to wear. She'd pull her hair into a bun, wear sweatpants, and scroll through news articles with trembling hands. She wasn't crying, not then at least. Crying would have been easier, but what she felt wasn't sadness. It was obliteration, like someone had turned her life inside out, hung it in public, and set it on fire. The man who had once whispered love to her on balconies in Capri, who promised her a world dipped in diamonds and drenched in legal brilliance, had orchestrated financial devastation on a national scale. Victims. Embezzlement. Millions siphoned from those already broken. And while Erika maintained she hadn't known, she couldn't escape the guilt that bloomed like mold in forgotten corners of her mind. She'd think back to the dinners, opulent feasts under crystal chandeliers, the staff, the cars, the custom stage wardrobes. What did it cost? She'd ask herself now, lying awake at 3 a.m., and who paid? Her lawyer checked in often. Michael had a kind face, but the eyes of someone always calculating 3 steps ahead. He was protective, yes, but also pragmatic. You're a public figure, he reminded her. and you're still under scrutiny. But I'm also a person, she'd reply. A broken one. On the morning after Tom's sentencing, she wandered into her recording studio. Dust had begun to settle on the soundboard. No new music, no beat drops, no sultry vocals for over a year. But that morning, something in her needed to scream. She closed the door, turned up the volume, and let the music blast like a heartbeat. No lyrics yet, just sound. Raw, jagged, like her. She screamed into the mic, not words, not melody, just raw emotion. The kind of sound that came from places words couldn't touch. It echoed in the walls, ricocheted off the mirrors, and for the first time in months she cried. She cried for the girl who had danced her way from strip clubs to stadiums. She cried for the wife who had believed in fairy tales. She cried for the persona she wore like armor, and the woman underneath who was now too tired to fight. People would say she had it coming, that she benefited, that she played dumb, but they didn't know the intricacies of living in a world built by a man like Tom Girardi. It wasn't just legal contracts and shared bank accounts, it was psychological erosion. Every day another inch of autonomy given away in exchange for comfort, for safety, for love. Now all that was gone. The money, the safety, the man. But something else had emerged from the wreckage. Herself. The real Erika, not the glamazon, not the brand ambassador or reality star, but the girl who grew up poor in Atlanta with dreams too big for her zip code. The girl who knew how to survive, who could turn pain into rhythm, who had grit in her teeth and songs in her bones. Her lawyer's words, emotionally destroyed, weren't wrong. But destruction, she was learning, wasn't the end. It was a beginning wrapped in fire. By the end of the week, she was back in the studio, this time with a pen in her hand. She wrote verses about betrayal, justice, and rebirth. She sang like someone reborn in grief. The songs weren't clean. They weren't polished. But they were real. And maybe that's what people would come to see, not just the spectacle of Erika Jayne, but the soul of Erika Girardi. Raw, wounded, complicated. She didn't have all the answers, and she wasn't asking for forgiveness. But she was done hiding, done performing grief the way the public expected. This was her truth now, not pretty, not packaged, but hers. And maybe in the ruins of a love story turned legal thriller, that was the only kind of freedom left. Would you like this adapted into a blog post, a dramatic monologue, or something else?